Have you ever watched a movie and somewhere along the way you thought, they're telling my story, or at least part of it? Thousands of people are connecting to the new independent film Bob Trevino Likes It, based on the experience of Houstonian and independent filmmaker Tracie Laymon. The film stars Barbie Ferreira and John Leguizamo.
I befriended a stranger on the internet so that I could feel like I had like a family, like everyone else. Just go home. I'm so sorry. We don't have to see each other again, and it's okay. It's fine.
Just because I'm not your father doesn't mean that we can't be friends, okay? Well, I know we just met a couple of hours ago, but I care. I really do, and I don't know why, but I do. And when you care about somebody, you don't just stop talking to them because you have a problem. No, you work it out and you talk it through. Okay, so let's talk.
The film won the Audience Award at South by Southwest, at the Calgary International Film Festival, and just about every other film festival it's been in. Tracie came back home to Houston to share this vulnerable piece of work.
My boyfriend and I, we broke up. Actually, wrote a poem. You want to see?
No, that's too small. I can't.
I can make it.
Hold on. But let me show you something. She got a great body, right? Mm-hmm. But, oh no, face to protect it. Permanent Halloween.
Your dad must have been a real piece of work if you needed a fake dad.
Tracie, some of your earliest memories of living in Houston are so Houston. Rollerblading at the Water Wall, Astros games at the Astrodome.
I love it. And actually, I just saw one of my best friends today, and we were talking about all that. We did karaoke at Astroworld. Coming back to Houston, it's so nostalgic for me. I love it so much.
All right, and a lot of people can relate right along with you as they are relating with your movie, and we'll talk about that in a second. But at 8, you wrote stories sitting in your closet. What is it about writing that you connected to? Why did you need to write?
I think, I was trying to find a way to connect and to be seen and heard. I didn't know as a kid how to do that, and I would go into my closet. I called it my office. They would say, like, where's Tracie? She's in her office. And just stay in there and write stories and kind of escape. It was kind of an escape, but also just a way to express myself. I really wanted to communicate with my family back then, and now I feel like I'm doing that with a much larger chosen family, which is really beautiful.
You are, and you moved on from writing those stories in your closet to playing with a home video camera, and you shot sketches and spoofs, you shot local bands, and you did video reports at school as opposed to the traditional book report.
Yes, first I had to get the teacher's permission. Instead of a book report, can I do a video report? And then have all my friends act in it, and those were my first productions.
Yeah. What was family life like?
My family was kind of dealing with a lot at home, and I don't think we all knew how to talk about it. And so I think writing for me was a way to say, let's talk about it. I would try to write about deeper things, and even though I was really young. And my family liked movies. We'd go to the movies. So as a young person, I thought maybe if I write a movie about the things that are important to me, then my family will see it and we'll wind up talking about it. That was my little brain kind of a solution. And then over the years, it just became its own thing I fell in love with.
Your dad worked for a home builder. Your mom remarried, and you moved to not down the street and around the corner to Russia. What was that like for you? Was it a culture shock, or was it an adventure for you?
At first, it was a culture shock. I couldn't read the signs. I couldn't figure them out at all.
Yeah.
The letters, everything. And I was such a fish out of water. I was a little upset to be kind of plucked from leave my friends, my family here, and everything, go there. But there was a moment where I was 14, and my parents were fighting, and I took my Catcher in the Rye and walked down to Red Square and was reading it, watching the changing of the guard outside Lenin's tomb in Red Square. And I thought, this is a moment. I need to be present. I'm learning something bigger here.
Yeah, it was almost like a mini movie that was taking place in front of you. Yeah, you came back to Houston. At 16, you worked in a video store. That was your first job, and you got lost in the films. Going back to what you had touched on with that family video recorder before.
We got to rent, I think 3 or 5 videos for free a week when you worked at the store, and boy, I used mine every single week.
Yeah, in fact, one of them you remember is Superstar Karen Carpenter story made with Barbie doll?
Yes.
I missed that one.
Yeah, so one of my fellow clerks at the video store on Westheimer said, here, check this out. And it was kind of an underground copy of a movie called Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story. And it was made with Barbie dolls and shot with a Super 8 camera, and it told Karen Carpenter's story about her kind of battle with anorexia. And I found it fascinating because I thought, oh wow, this was made for almost no money. So this means I don't have to have famous parents. I don't have to have millions and millions of dollars. There is
don't have a studio backing you. What you got into was that whole idea of indie films, and sometimes people forget that the freedom of it, why independent, there's a lot of freedom with it. You don't have to have the big budgets. You can focus much more on storytelling, which is what you did there. But speaking of stories, a real life moment for you. You survived a near-death experience. How did that shape or change anything that you did from that point?
I was a teenager, and I was driving on, oh my gosh, it's a lot. But we were on Highway 6, coming on around Navasota, you know. My mom and I were in this debilitating accident. It was life-changing. I remember thinking that I wasn't gonna make it, and I had to go through an extended period of physical rehabilitation. I broke my back and had to learn how to walk again, and wore a brace and was a wheelchair user. And so I do put a lot of characters with disabilities in my work because this was such a...
You understand it?
Yeah, I do. It's really important, you know, to have that representation.
Yeah.
It's like looking at a life that I don't get to have anymore. And I find myself trying to hide all this stuff. It's really exhausting.
I remember that during one of my hardest moments during all that, I told myself, I don't know if I want to do this. It's too much. It's too much. And I said, okay, here's the deal, Tracie. And I was so young, you know, I don't even know where this came from, you know, but I listened to it.
Well, you were an old soul. Anyway.
Yeah. I said, if you want an out, you can have it. But the deal is, the other side of this deal is that you have to work as hard as you possibly can every day. And you have to look for any even small sign of improvement. Because if 20 years from now, I could be doing this with you, I could be doing, you know, making a movie, and you don't make it there, that's the tragedy. This is not the tragedy. So I just said, okay, every day I woke up and I made it a choice to keep and like right at this moment, I'm not in any pain, and I never thought, I mean, doesn't mean I don't have pain.
Yeah, but you didn't think at that time. So your life is an inspiration and a story in itself, but you went off to the University of Texas, and one of the things that along the way is all of our, you know, family of origin and family dynamics, you always sought just some approval from your dad, as any child would want, is approval from their parents. And this is kind of like what kicked off this whole idea for the movie at one point. But he wouldn't call or email you back when you say, hey, can you take a look at this? Hey, this is what I'm doing right here. You were hungry for that approval. How did that lead you into this movie that so many people are talking about now?
Dad, is this an itemized list of all the expenses of being my father?
Yeah.
Dad, there's baby food on here.
Do you know where you would be without me? We're over.
My dad stopped talking to me.
Hello?
Hey, Dad, it's me.
Gotcha. Leave a message.
Hi.
Mailbox is full.
He was angry and he wouldn't return my calls, and it was always something that in hindsight I feel is very small, but to him he would make it a big thing, and it was kind of a tactic.
For his own reasons.
And here I am trying to fix it, he won't let me, and so I was like, maybe he's on Facebook. So I put his name into Facebook, accidentally friended another man with his name.
Dad, Bob Trevino likes your comment. Hi, are we related?
Jeannie, I think I may have made a friend.
Who?
Some young woman on the internet.
And that man for 9 years was kind to me for the sake of being kind, never nefarious, never did anything inappropriate or said anything inappropriate. And I wasn't used to an intergenerational friendship with a father figure who was being kind just for the sake of kind.
Yeah, and as much as we beat up social media, there is a connection there, and we saw that during COVID when people were so isolated, but yet they could find, you know, strength and friendship in strangers.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something really healing because we think everything is bad. We like to joke this is the only positive movie about social media because everything else someone dies or you know like something.
Bob Trevino Likes It.
Yeah,
and I love the title too. It's super cool because there's the approval. He likes it, so I'm okay. Things will be all right, right? So take us through the feelings that you express in this movie and how people have responded to it.
I made the movie because I felt like I had to. I feel like a lot of independent films, they're people's first features. They had to make them. They're so personal.
The message that's so
and so we've had so many obstacles that I didn't even know how vulnerable I was really being. I just had to face it. They say, if you can't be courageous for yourself, you can be courageous for your cause. And my cause was I have to tell people how these small acts of kindness changed my life. I have to tell people. And then the movie was done. I was like, oh wow, I'm going to be vulnerable in front of a lot of people now.
Well, it's nice when you're vulnerable, but it's the characters. It's not me, right? And speaking of the characters that you chose to play this, really pull that story together.
Oh, they're wonderful. Barbie Ferreira plays Lily Trevino. John Leguizamo is our Bob Trevino. Even French Stewart as the biological dad, just out of this world. You know, I like to say I wasn't casting actors necessarily. I felt like I was casting hearts. Like, who are the right hearts to play these hearts that meant so much to me in real life? You know, who can do that? Who can represent that?
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And what you reveal in there as well is that, you know, old Bob was dealing with some stuff in his own life.
Yeah.
So you never wanted to be a dad?
It's not that. Jeannie and I, we lost a child. We're all a bit broken. But you know what? You're gonna be fine.
You both found each other.
Yeah.
And you both were kind of each other's therapy in a way.
I feel like a big message in the movie is that you don't have to be perfect to help somebody. You know, we're all a little bit broken, and you can show up where you're at, and you can make a difference with what you have.
Yeah, and actually, it's like one of the best forms of therapy is not in a bottle.
Yeah.
For your therapy, the best forms of therapy is to do something kind for someone else.
Yeah.
And that's the best. All right, what have people told you about this? Because people are coming up to you, and you're realizing that more families are what we may say broken than we realize, or families just aren't as perfect and Hallmark cardish as we think they are.
Yeah, and I used to think I was all alone, but now I'm like, oh, there's so many of us. There's so many people that are in pain or that need some healing or kindness.
Look, she's screaming into the void. No one even likes her posts. She's just a kid who doesn't have anyone. Thought maybe I could have someone to offer.
You know, something beautiful is happening in the theater where people are laughing together, crying together, strangers saying, it was so nice to cry with you, you know, in the theater. And we're trying to get people back to the theater because this is a healing experience.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have, oh gosh, someone said, I cried so hard my contact came out. You know, somebody else said my roommate cried so hard and they were wearing a wool sweater and their faces all scratched up
because
from
they
wiping
used
the tears.
That's funny.
I mean, but these every day I'm getting these beautiful strangers hugging out in the hallway outside the theater, and I think it's the butterfly effect of these small acts of kindness.
Yeah, and that's what powerful film does, is that you may see something on the screen, but after the credits roll and it says the end, it's not really the end, and it becomes a discussion and hopefully something that helps other people to heal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for this movie and coming by and sharing that with us today.
Thank you so much.
I saw the movie this past weekend at the River Oaks Theater. My son looked over and said, "Mom, are you crying?" Yes, along with everyone else, why aren't you? It's a beautiful film that's funny, endearing, and a reminder that sometimes people are in your life just for a season to get you to your next step. The movie is in theaters everywhere, including the newly renovated River Oaks Theater.